What is up, folks? My name is Chris, your NFL writer here at Occupy Fantasy, here with a look at Week 7 of the NFL season. I'm going to give you the top picks for DFS lineups on DraftKings and FanDuel's main slate this Sunday. And my favorite play this week is Rashee Rice, who I believe is going to give the Chiefs offense a massive lift as they head into the main stretch of the season here and look to kind of get back on the right track and march towards another AFC West division title, all that fun stuff. More on Rashee Rice a little bit later in the video when I talk about receivers. The first thing that I like to do every single week is go over spreads and totals. Teams that are the biggest favorites each week tend to have running backs that are going to be in the best positions to succeed based off expected game scripts. So that's usually the first place that we want to look for some players that we can use in our low-risk lineups. We have another week here, though, where that's not necessarily the case. And the big reason that Rashee Rice is my favorite play here is because I think he will benefit as a possession receiver, expected to see 8, 9, 10 plus targets from Patrick Mahomes in this game, a little bit more than these running backs who are splitting time for the Chiefs in this backfield. That is the first team that I want to talk about here because the Chiefs are favored by 13 points here in a game at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. And Isaiah Pacheco has been the starting running back for the Chiefs here this year, but you see that the overall touch volume is not super impressive. A max of 3 targets in the first 6 weeks of the season. Last week's 12 carries against Detroit was actually his season high, but he has not really had a great fantasy performance at all this year. When you look at who he's been splitting work with, which is Kareem Hunt, Hunt doesn't have much better results. You see week 5 was obviously decent with 18.7 DraftKings points here. Kareem Hunt gets the work in the red zone and in specifically the green zone, that 5 to 1 yard line area, those touches that are close to the goal line that are more likely to result in touchdowns. That has been Kareem Hunt's job in this backfield. So if you were going to speculate on one of these guys for some DFS lineups, maybe in the early only slate window, or if you're playing some of those single game showdown contests on DraftKings for Chiefs and Raiders, some of those smaller field contests, Kareem Hunt's probably the better running back to speculate on here in your lineups this week. But I don't think in the 10-game main slate, the Chiefs running back position is worth spending any salary dollars on in a low-risk lineup because we have a lot of players in better positions to talk about here. Right behind the Kansas City Chiefs, we have the Denver Broncos, and they're favored by 7 points in their game at home against the New York Giants. And that's good news for J.K. Dobbins, who's actually in a really good position to succeed here. The Giants are the second worst rush defense in the NFL and roughly league average defending running backs in the passing game. So I would be comfortable speculating on Dobbins here. I think he's also a high-risk only play, though, because we have a lot of running backs that are going to be popular this week that are actually in neutral to slightly negative game script situations. And I'll talk about them in a few minutes here. We have another 7-point favorite, and it's the New England Patriots. They're favored by 7 points on the road against the Tennessee Titans here. Ramondre Stevenson is still the starting running back here. He's not been very good or effective thus far for the Patriots. I'm not entirely sure why Mike Vrabel won't give more work to Travion Henderson here in this backfield, but I do think he is the most exciting and explosive option in this backfield the Patriots could utilize. But either way, these guys are going to be off of the radar and out of our player pool for low-risk contests because we have no idea how this workload is going to shake out. And so we're going to move on to the next spot, which is the spot we were on last week, and that is Josh Jacobs with the Green Bay Packers. Packers are 6.5-point favorites on the road here this week against the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals may be starting Jacoby Brissett again. We're going to have to wait and see how that shakes out here. And Jacobs catching a little bit of a questionable tag after the heavy workload last week against Cincinnati. So we're going to have to monitor that here. But I do think Jacobs is a really, really strong play once again this week. Arizona slightly below league average defending the rush and running backs in the passing game. And that's where we saw Jacobs have his most and that's where we saw Jacobs have a really big impact in week 6 at home against the Bengals last week. So kind of interesting that these 4 teams, Kansas City, Denver, New England, and Green Bay, all big favorites this week, but none of them are actually featuring running backs that are going to be popular this week. The most popular running back on DraftKings and FanDuel this week is actually going to be Breece Hall at home against the Carolina Panthers. Now, Breece Hall has seen a really, really strong workload in this backfield, primarily because Justin Fields doesn't know how to throw a football. But other than that, and I kid, of course, Breece Hall has benefited from the fact that Braylon Allen has been unavailable due to his unfortunate injury, and it's basically been more playing time, more opportunities in the backfield for Breece Hall. He's operating as more of a 3-down true bell cow running back here. And facing Carolina is no easy task. They do have a top 3 rush defense, and they're top 2 in the NFL defending running backs in the passing game. Again, not looking for targets for Breece Hall here. We're just looking at the rush volume. The Jets are slight underdogs this week against the Panthers, but Breece Hall at his price tag of $6,300 here on DraftKings and $7,000 over on FanDuel going to be well worth the price of admission here and should have an easy path, 15, 20, maybe 25 plus touches. Hopefully some of those are targets, especially in PPR here on DraftKings, and we can get in the end zone against Carolina and have a decent day here against the Panthers defense with Breece Hall. Finally, we have a 54.5 point total game on this slate. It's been a while since we actually had a true shootout on a main slate. Most of these 50 plus point total games have been prime time or on Monday night in the short slates. But no, we have a 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game here in the NFC East between the Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys. And I think both teams have running backs that are in play here. We're going to start with Javonte Williams on the Dallas side. Dallas is the slight favorite at this point. The Washington Commanders are slightly above average defending running backs on the ground, but they are well below average, 26th in the league by DVOA, defending running backs in the passing game. So another opportunity here for Javonte, who's the clear bell cow back here. He only has rookie Jaden Blue backing him up now with Miles Sanders on IR. Should look to bounce back. And look, that matchup that I was just talking about for Breece Hall, Carolina, they did limit Javonte to just 29 yards on 13 carries last week. We're looking for him to bounce back here against Washington. So maybe we play Javonte, and if you are a little scared to play a Jets player in low-risk contests at running back, you just have the evidence in front of you why that may be well-founded to be afraid of that here. Moving on, we have Jonathan Taylor with the Colts, who has been an absolute wrecking ball and touchdown machine at the position for the Colts here. 26 plus fantasy points again last week. That's 4 games now where he has done that here in PPR on DraftKings. Taylor's facing the 26th ranked rush defense here on the road, facing the Chargers. And the Chargers are above average defending running backs in the passing game, but primarily Jonathan Taylor just benefiting from this offense staying on schedule and just getting a consistent amount of work in this backfield with Daniel Jones under center. I think we can consider him in all contest types. I think with his salary, he probably falls outside of the top 3 plays for low risk, but game script wise and then upside wise, he's definitely there for everybody this week. As we move towards Sunday, I think the entire field is going to gravitate towards these plays in the Miami and the Cleveland game. And the reason is this game has a completely plummeting total. Right now it's 36.5 points in betting markets. And that's because we have winds that are going to be at least 20 miles per hour, potentially gusting over 30 miles an hour. It's going to be rainy. It's basically a very, very poor environment for offense, or passing offense, especially here in Cleveland on Sunday. And it's probably going to be a ground game for both teams. Quinshon Judkins, who I had as a high-risk play I liked last week, did not work out against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Could be the flop lag week here for him here at home against the Dolphins. Dolphins are a bottom 5 rush defense. They rank 28th in the league, and they're a bottom 4 defense defending running backs in the passing game, ranked 29th. So Judkins here set up really, really well here at home to succeed against the Dolphins defense. In the same game, obviously on the other side of this matchup, week in and week out, we are always interested in Devin Achane. Achane's going to have a really good chance to succeed as well if this becomes a run-focused environment. Tua doesn't necessarily run. Ollie Gordon has not really had a meaningful amount of work in the backfield here for the Dolphins. So I would say Achane, more of a high-risk play, but Judkins definitely going to be featured in a lot of the low-risk lineups this week, the way that it looks like it's shaping up here. And as we get closer to Sunday, I think it'll stay that way as well. So if I'm picking 3 guys here for low-risk contests based off of where the field is right now, I am going to hold my nose a little bit and go with Breece Hall. I reserve the right to change that by Sunday. So if you're not a member of our Discord yet, there is a link to join in the description of the video, and that's where we'll release our final core plays on Saturday night or Sunday morning. Keep an eye on that there. I think I'll put Hall in there for now. And then the final running back spot, I think I'm going to right now cede to Javonte Williams in that high total game with the Dallas Cowboys. Now at the quarterback position, sticking with the high total game, we have Jaden Daniels finally back under center for the Washington Commanders. With his dual threat skill set, I think he's an easy click for all contest types, but especially your low risk lineups here on both sites. So you got to get him in, I think, this week. If you want to play somebody else, the next best play is going to be Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs have the highest implied team total on this slate at 29.5 points because they are 13-point home favorites here in betting markets. And he's getting his favorite toy back in Rashee Rice at wide receiver. For me, mentioned it at the top of the video, my favorite way to gain exposure to this Chiefs offense on this slate is going to be in the passing game. And I think here on DraftKings especially, it's going to be through Rashee Rice at this really underpriced $5,600 price tag. Yeah, we're a little unsure what his workload is going to be. And I think that's why DraftKings hedged and priced him in this mid-range. I wish he was about $1,000 more because I think it would be a tougher decision for the field here. We're expecting him to be about 25 to 30% in ownership in large field tournaments this week here on DraftKings. FanDuel priced him far more competitively at $7,500 over there. So I think he'll come in maybe 15 to 20, maybe closer to 25%. And it's a little bit harder to get him into your low risk lineup, which we'll see in a minute when we flip over to FanDuel. But I think Rice, very playable here at 5,600, going to be one of the three most popular plays at the position, as well as PPR scam artist Chris Olave, whose price just never seems to move. He's going to be $5,400 this week on the road against the Bears in what should be another passing game script for Spencer Rattler and the Saints here. So I think he's fine to play in low risk contests this week. And then we want a stack partner with Jaden Daniels. And once again, with the Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin is going to be out this week. So Deebo Samuel, probably a good contestant to see the most work in this wide receiver room. Once again, I know we did not have a great night on Monday Night Football, but he's going to project well, and the field is looking to get him into their lineups once again here this week. See, we have $34.50 per player remaining for our final tight end spot this week, and a defense as well. Kind of like last week, I think the field is going to try to get to one of these expensive tight ends. Trey McBride is projecting to be fairly popular this week. Jake Ferguson, obviously, in this 54.5 point total game. Tyler Warren here with the Colts. Travis Kelce with the Chiefs is probably going to be more of a low-risk play on FanDuel because I think he's probably the easiest pass catcher to get to in the Chiefs offense over there, the way this is priced out. Here on DraftKings, if you're looking for some value, I think we can go right back to Michael Mayer. We're not expecting Brock Bowers to return this week, so he's sitting right there as an option. The weather is a little scary here, but Harold Fannin Jr., David Njoku is going to be out this week, so that means Fannin Jr. is going to be the primary tight end for the first time here. We saw 10 targets last week. I think the passing volume is going to be affected here in Cleveland, but if there's anyone that's going to benefit from some safe routes in the passing game, it's going to be the tight end. So Fannin, probably okay for your low-risk lineup this week. And then with the Jets, Mason Taylor, Garrett Wilson is out this week for the Jets, and they have probably the worst receiver room in the NFL. I mean, they're looking at starting Alan Lazard, Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson. If you know who these guys are, you're either fans of their previous teams or unfortunately you are a Jets fan and you're forced to care about those guys. So I think Mason Taylor is probably the best asset here. Didn't really see a ton of volume in London against the Denver Broncos, but we saw 12 targets the week before that against the Dallas Cowboys and probably have an argument here for a little bit of a pass funnel here with how tough Carolina is on the ground. So I do think Mason Taylor is a strong play or low risk here as well. On defense, the most popular play this week looks like it is going to be the Denver Broncos. 3,500 here on DraftKings. They're 4,300 over on FanDuel, so I don't mind getting them into my lineup here, and then that puts us basically right on Mason Taylor at $3,400 for a low risk lineup. Now over on FanDuel, things are a little different. Pet McMillan, we saw him get in the end zone and meet that underperforming wide receiver status last week and finally regress in a way that we could benefit from. So we have a few more plays this week that I'll call out in a second here that you can use in tournament lineups. But Ted is underpriced here on FanDuel at $6,600. He actually is going to be one of the three most popular receivers on FanDuel specifically this week. So that's why he is in the low-risk core alongside Chris Olave. I do think JCM, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt here, is also underpriced in this 54.5 point total game, specifically on FanDuel. He's going to be one of the three most popular running back plays we think this week. So those are the two major differences with this lineup and the DraftKings low-risk lineup. I think Quinshon Judkins a little overpriced in the FanDuel pricing structure, whereas JCM underpriced. So that's what explains that difference. And McMillan is going to be in here probably over Rashee Rice for us this week because we can get to Travis Kelce at a cheap $5,800 on the FanDuel salary scale here. And with the remaining salary, we can still get, for a receiver, we can still get right back to Deebo Samuel with Jaden Daniels. So that's pretty much where the field is here for low risk this week, guys. It's going to be pretty heavily exposed to the 54.5 point total game with Washington and Dallas. It's going to be pretty heavily exposed to the Chiefs being the highest implied team total offense here between either Kelsey or Rashee Rice. I think that's pretty much, you got to have that core in your lineup, so you're just making mistakes, especially in your low risk lineups this week. Now, looking at some of the other offenses that I like for high risk contests this week, I'm a big fan of both of those popular quarterbacks in Mahomes and in Jaden Daniels. But Dallas, we got Dak Prescott, who's going to be a little bit cheaper than those guys. You've got an expensive receiver returning in CeeDee Lamb that I think is going to be well worth just piling on right away here. And his return to the starting lineup almost makes George Pickens overpriced. They're both priced as if there would only be one of them in the lineup here. I think under normal circumstances, that Lamb would be about $1,000 more and Pickens would be about $1,000 less. But not being sure whether or not Lamb was going to be in the lineup this week. Once again, we have Lamb priced down a little bit and Pickens priced as if he is in the wide receiver one role. So I do think you can play both these guys in a Dallas stack, but understand the pricing dynamics a little weird here for this week alone. You get those two guys here. We already know that Javonte is going to be popular as one of the running backs. And then we have Debo, who's going to be very popular at receiver for Washington at 6,200. We have JCM at 6,100 that's going to be popular as well. I think just a 3-1 game stack of Washington and Dallas focused on the Dallas side is very high upside this week and still get some of my other favorite plays in Rashee Rice. You get a popular Chris Olave in here. You can get a cheap Mason Taylor in here at tight end. Judkins at running back. And I mean, we got to go down in the salary table a little bit to play a defense, but I think we definitely have those options here. Ones that stand out that our model is pretty high on here. We like the Vikings here against the Philadelphia Eagles this week. And the Chiefs, the Bears, and the Chargers are the other popular ones for us. But obviously they don't fit this build, but those are where we are on defense other than the Broncos this week. So I think for this one, you could go with the cheapest one that I just mentioned. That's kind of how I'm feeling about this week in tournaments, guys. I really, really like this Rashee Rice play. There's one final thing that I want to talk about, of course, before we get out of here, and that is underperforming wide receivers. We have 5 of them on this slate, and we have 2 from the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond once again, and this seems to be a system issue. They're very low price this week. Not underpriced. They're just low price because they're bad offense in the passing game, right? Jeudy 4,400, Isaiah Bond 3,400. We have Harold Fannin right in the middle of these two guys. This has just not been an effective downfield passing attack, and I don't think a week where we have 30-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts in a rainy, basically monsoon kind of environment is going to be the week where they break out of it. So for me, I'm crossing these guys off, but I'm just letting you know they are technically underperforming wide receivers, so they're worth mentioning in this segment. With the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown, I don't know what kind of self-help books he's into right now, but hopefully he's found an effective one because he is the number 1 underperforming wide receiver in our model this week, and we are excited to play him. Obviously, when he is still getting the opportunities to score those fantasy points, they just haven't happened for whatever reason. Maybe this week against Minnesota, it'll materialize. It is a tough matchup, though, and that is why our model likes the Vikings defense this week. With the Tennessee Titans and their matchup against the New England Patriots, this could not be more of a perfect storm situation for Alec Aomanor. Aomanor is going to benefit from the fact that Ridley is going to be out this week. That's a good thing for an increase in expected target volume. He's going to see very, very high target volume for his price. I think he's probably one of the better plays here that is low price because of that. Finally, we do have Keenan Allen, who has underperformed his recent opportunity with the Chargers after starting very hot. And the only place that you really have to look to understand that is the touchdown column here. You see that we got in the box in each of the first 3 weeks of the season. He hasn't done that in the last 3 weeks, but the target volume has stayed consistent. 7+ targets in every single game this season, and he's still going to be a very, very highly valued asset for Justin Herbert here in this offense. But Keenan Allen also underperforming this week. That's going to do it for me, guys. Let me know what some of your favorite plays are here for week 7 in the NFL season in the comments below. And as always, stay hydrated. Be back next week to talk to you about week 8.